Welcome to the Gaudium et Spes podcast, where every other week we bring you Catholic teachings and stories of faith from people throughout the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee. Now, here are your hosts, Susanne McNinch and Chez Filippini.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Gaudium et Spes podcast. Chez and I are back in the studio today on part 2 of a series talking about Catholic schools. Today we have the pleasure of having the principal from St. Mary Catholic School over in Walton Beach, Mr. Peter Rodgers, with us. Peter, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, and it's so good to be here with you.
All right. Well, we're really pleased to have you here with us today.
Thanks for making the trip over. Busy time of year, August, never a simple time for a Catholic school principal, so we appreciate you making the time.
Not
for
at all.
Every guest, and this is your first time podcast appearance of any sort?
This is my first podcast, and I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest with you.
We like to break the ice. Our podcast is named after, of course, the Great Vatican II document, Gaudium et Spes. So we read the first line from that document to kind of get a sense of where you're at in life, highs, lows, and stuff. So that line goes, the joys and the hopes, the griefs and anxieties of the men of this age, especially those who are poor or in any way afflicted. These are the joys and hopes, the griefs and anxieties of the followers of Christ. Peter, you're a follower of Christ?
I am.
What's going on with joys, hopes, griefs, and anxieties in your life, or any of the above?
Well, as far as the highs and lows, I guess, as you just said, I think one of the lows most recently would be one of the teachers, a brand new teacher that we just hired about a couple of months ago. She informed us last week that she had decided to take another job closer to her home, and so that was a difficult pill to swallow. And so I called together my office staff, and we all said a prayer together to the Holy Spirit to bring us the right person, to bring us the right teacher. And within a week's time, we had the position filled, and we're very confident that this teacher will be a great cultural fit. She is very experienced. She's very competent. She is a mother of 9. And she's got a great personality. I think the community is going to really embrace her. Yeah,
that's amazing. That is, if you never knew the life of a principal at a Catholic school, it is the late summer or even early into the school year. Like, oh, sorry, my husband got deployed, or something's going on, or something like that. It is a
challenge.
You never expect it, but you should expect it, basically. At this point. So, thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Suzanne, what's going on?
Yeah. So. My husband and I are empty nesters.
Oh.
Yes, indeed. Both kids are out at college, so let the fun begin. Just kidding. No, it's great. I guess your job as a parent is to let their wings spread and to watch them fly and to give them all the tools that they need in order to be successful. And so I'm really proud of both my kids, and
nice work.
I'm just looking forward to, just these next milestones that happen. And we've got season tickets to football.
I was going to ask, I was like, are you going to play golf 4 nights a week now?
No.
Or no? Okay.
Well, maybe. A few other things too. But no, we've got, my dream come true, season tickets. So we're headed there for the 6 home Saturday games. And,
oh my gosh.
Yep. So we'll be roadies. We'll be looking for our flags flying on I-10. We'll be going down the strip. So
nice.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep. So how about you, Chez?
Well, I'm not an empty nester yet. But one of the great joys of this phase of life, my daughter Maria, who's the third, and I probably share, is probably our spiciest child as far as her one-liners and her just adorableness. Anyhow, she started pre-K, so just like seeing her in the uniform with the curly pigtails, it's just like it was an amazing moment. So thank you, Cathedral of the Sacred Heart, for dealing with all that craziness. And but yeah, just a beautiful moment. 3 kids in the car now to school, which is, that's what a Honda Civic can handle at this point in time. So it's been fun. It's been a great start to the year. So
good.
That's what's up.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, Peter, let's get to know you a little bit more. So You were featured in the Compass back in the March-April timeframe. So if you haven't already had a chance, please pick up a copy of the Compass and read it. But this gave us just a little taste of who Peter Rodgers is. But if you can kind of tell us in your own words, where did you grow up, and what was your family life like?
Sure. I was born in Queens, New York, but raised mostly in Connecticut, the third of 5 children to John and Christine Rodgers. Growing up, I went to Catholic schools, and the Catholic faith was very much a part of our daily lives. We went to daily Mass as a family together before school, prayed the Rosary together every night as a family. And that was kind of the practice prior to high school. Once high school hit, everyone was kind of scattered in many different directions. But that was basically the foundation, the faith foundation for my life. Went through high school up in Connecticut, and right after high school, I enlisted in the Air Force. I was 17 when I graduated high school, and I knew I needed a lot of structure and discipline in my life. I was kind of a wild youth, and so I went into the Air Force. I served some time in the reserves and the National Guard, and I was activated a couple of times in 2001, 2003. But after my initial commitment with the Air Force was up, I had this tug on my heart to discern a possible call or vocation to the priesthood. Mm-hmm. And so there was a priest who was very influential in my life growing up. His name was Father Anthony Moore. He was a Franciscan. And so he urged me to at least be open to the idea. And so when all my commitments with the military and with school were up, I applied to the Archdiocese of Hartford, Connecticut, and they sent me to Mount St. Mary's Seminary in Emmitsburg, Maryland, and the Mount, as it was affectionately called. And it was a great place. I spent a total of 6 years of my life discerning a call to the priesthood. When I was about 29 years old, just shy of 30, I told the rector of the seminary, his name was Monsignor Stephen Rolfs, that I just couldn't go forward with orders. And so, he was very paternal, in his counsel with me. And so he suggested that I remain open, but, not go forward. And so I went back to Connecticut after my time in the seminary, and that's when I got into education. And I taught at St. Joseph's High School for 4 years, and I coached the baseball team and cross country. And then I got into administration, and during all that time, I got married, and my wife and I started our family. And through circumstances, we ended up in Tennessee for 6 years, and then we just moved down here last summer.
Wow.
Yeah.
As a high school principal, or a Catholic school principal now, and looking back as your time as you were mentioning this call and stuff when you were in that phase of just starting out in Catholic education, did you maybe be like, oh, I think I got a future in this. I think sitting at the top of the pyramid would be great, or was it kind of like being mentored along sort of a seminary process where people bring you along and see your gifts and skills and possibilities?
I never really dreamt or aspired to be a principal. Okay. Actually, the president of the university, and the seminary was part of the university, was my cousin. His name is Dr. Tom Powell. And when I was discerning out, he said, to be open to the idea of school administration. And then there were other people along the way that just said, you should give this a look, and you should discern this. And so I never really thought too much about it. But then, in my 4th year as a teacher, I felt the call to kind of expand my role in education, and not just to the classroom, but to the school. And so there was an opening that came up in the same town, and I kind of knew everybody in that area. They knew me, and they took a chance with me. And it worked out. It worked out really well.
Good. So what attracted you to apply to the job at St. Mary's School here in Fort Walton?
So That was kind of an interesting story. So at one point, a couple of years, before I became the principal at St. Mary's, I took a step back and I went back into the classroom for a couple of years so my wife could pursue her graduate degree and I could be at home more. But we both knew that wasn't going to be a permanent thing. And so at the right time, I started to apply for jobs. We wanted to stay in the South. I'm originally from the Northeast. We wanted to stay in the South. We wanted to be closer to the water. And there was an opening, actually, I think it was a cathedral in Pensacola. And I applied for that job. But by the time I got to that job, they had already filled the position with a wonderful principal, I might add. And
Here.
yeah. And so, but I heard about St. Mary's, that there was an opening at St. Mary's, and I had never heard of Fort Walton Beach. I had never been to Destin, even though for 6 years I lived in Tennessee, and everyone from Tennessee goes down to Destin. And so my wife and I, we took a long weekend and we went down to Fort Walton, and we prayed about it, and we met with Father Halsema at the time, and we met with the search committee, and it was one thing led to another, and I was offered the position, and I accepted it, and here we are. It's a great decision, I would say. I love working with Father Halsema. I think he's got his heart and his mind in the right place. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've had a number of people who have been either raised at St. Mary's, Fort Walton Beach, or been a priest there at some point in time. Can you tell us, especially in light of your experience up north and in Nashville, what's some of the defining, for those of you who aren't from the Fort Walton Beach area, what's St. Mary's School like? What are its maybe its characteristics or identity?
Well, the one thing that comes to mind is prior to going to St. Mary's last summer, or moving down to Fort Walton Beach, I asked the school secretary to schedule a 15-minute meeting with everybody, an individual meeting with me and all the teachers and all the staff members, just so I could have a little one-on-one time and just have a little introduction before the busyness of the start of the year. And one of the questions that I asked all of the teachers and the staff members in the context of those meetings was that question: what's one thing that defines St. Mary's, or what's one thing that I should take away from this? And the one thing that emerged, the one theme that emerged in the context of those meetings was this idea of family. And I know that probably a lot of Catholic schools could probably say the same thing, but I could speak on that personally, just because when my third child was born, the family really, or the school family really embraced my own personal family. And they reached out in many different ways, and they really, they just made us feel very welcome and part of that community.
Good job, St. Mary's.
Yeah.
You're listening. Nice job.
Yeah, I love it. So you've got 1 year under your belt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you didn't accomplish all the things that you wanted to in your first year, but maybe you did. But what are some of those things that you're most proud of that you were able to do in your first year? And then follow-on question would be what are you looking forward to in this upcoming year?
Yeah, so the one thing that pops into my mind is in the beginning of the year, we received the Purple Star distinction, which means that we are a military-friendly school. And with St. Mary's proximity to Eglin and other military bases, we do have a lot of military families. There is a close partnership between us and the military bases. And so just to have that distinction, just to have the Purple Star designation, that meant something to me personally, being a veteran, and but also to the entire community at large. Mm-hmm. And I would say, looking forward to this year, there are a few things. We have a major project that is going on in the church, and so we're kind of having to adapt to our new circumstances. And so being able to successfully adapt to that, to the church is going to be in our gym, and so we had to make some plans to kind of work around that. And I think we have a pretty good plan in place, and we're going to have to continually look at things and adapt to our circumstances. but that's one of the immediate priorities that I have. But also we're in the second of the 3-year Eucharistic revival. And so we want to promote that as much as we possibly can in the school community. That is the true presence of Christ in the Eucharist. And really focus in a lot of our teachings on that particular doctrine. And in the broader sense, just miracles, and just kind of getting our kids to see that there is more to reality than just what is perceived in our senses. And I guess just prepping for accreditation. We're going to have our on-site accreditation next year, and so we want to make sure that we are prepared and we're prepped for that in advance.
You mentioned the project going on at St. Mary's right now, the whole, the maintenance reality that our parish face all the time. Father Doug Halsman being a part of that, and usually on a Catholic parish campus that has a school, probably the two most prominent people are usually the pastor, maybe the vicar general, but also the school principal. So I don't know if you can speak into the relationship that a principal and a pastor have and how that works. And you don't have to give us all the details about your fireside chats with Father Doug or anything like that. But, just what is that relationship like and how do you support each other?
Well, I mean, I think it's the most important relationship that exists in the parish community, a parish community that has a school. I mean, the school being the largest ministry of the parish, it really is it's a mission of the parish, and so having the pastor and the principal have a shared vision is very important. The pastor really sets the tone. It's really his vision, and then the principal is the one who kind of implements that vision. And so it is necessary that they are working in conjunction with each other and that they are rowing in the same direction. And so we have that at St. Mary's.
And for those of you who don't know Father Doug Halsman, guys, you'll maybe get to know him a little bit more. He's our new vicar general for the diocese as of this summer. After 22 years, Monsignor Luke Hunt, who's over at St. Anne's Gulf Breeze, has stepped aside, and Father Doug is now vicar general, which is a fancy term for second in command next to and assisting the bishop in all duties. So an amazing guy, an amazing person to work with and spend time with and stuff. And so that's really cool. Thanks.
Good. So are you able to get back in the classroom at all, or do you?
As much as I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you like do you have a favorite subject you like to teach or a topic?
I love teaching church history. So whenever I can kind of weave church history into a particular lesson or teach the kids about that, I mean, that just, it gives me life.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can imagine. That's great.
I hear you. I was a former theology teacher at St. Joseph's Academy over at St. Augustine, and so I got to teach all aspects of theology, but there's something about bringing a young mind through the journey of the church's experience in all of its context. It's fun. It's just fun. Especially, I don't know if you're a history buff growing up or something like that.
I was,
too.
a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Speaking of, I don't know if this will have anything to do, but leadership at a Catholic school is demanding. It's multifaceted. You're a fundraiser, you're a personnel manager, you're a vision setter, you're a maintenance eye, it's just all sorts of things going on. I don't know if you have any in leadership specifically or just anything, mentors or models or saints or anybody that's just like, man, this is the kind of principal leader, mentor type of person that I aspire to be.
Well, actually, so Father Halsema invited the parish leadership team to go on this this retreat of sorts. It was a summit out in Phoenix, Arizona this past summer, and so all the members of the parish leadership team were invited to go out there. And I had a little time to think about that question, and just like who has mentored me, or who do I kind of aspire to be like. And the one person that comes to mind, her name is Kathleen Casey. She was the associate superintendent up in the Diocese of Bridgeport when I first became a principal. And I remember she asked me a question toward the end of my time at St. Catherine's, like prior to moving to Tennessee, and she said, Peter, it wasn't a question, more or less, that she was like, you need to find somebody, a leader who whose qualities and characteristics that you want to emulate, whose qualities and characteristics that you want to embody, and that you want to be more like. And I had thought about that over the years, and there were various leaders whose qualities and characteristics that I thought of. But as I was going out to Phoenix, Arizona, and I was thinking about that question and that interaction that I had with Kathleen, I was thinking that she was the person. She was the leader in my life and along my faith journey that I respected, I admired, and I really wanted to be a lot like in my own leadership. I thought she had a very good balance and integration of intelligence, but also nurturing and compassion. And she really was a wonderful leader. She was somebody who she just embodied strength, like I said, intelligence, compassion. She was nurturing, and so she was the one. Yeah,
that's amazing.
That is. Have you ever told her that?
I did. In fact, on the way out there, when we landed in Phoenix, because we had a few hours to, on the plane ride, I did text her out of the blue, and I hadn't spoken to her in about seven or 8 years or so, and the reason why I think I thought about her was just because I had a long plane ride, but she got her MBA out in Phoenix, Arizona, at one of the universities out there, and so I was like, I have to reach out to her. And so we were able to connect via text. So yes, I did tell her that.
Nice. I'm sure she really appreciated that too.
She did.
So, good. Yeah. Enrollment is looking very, very good at St. Mary's.
Well, stable.
It's stable.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's stable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we started the year last year at 402 students. We're currently sitting at about 410 or so.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So slight increase.
Yeah, good. And relationships with the community are good. Do you work with principals from the public schools in the local area?
As a matter of fact, there is a principal at one of the schools who is helping us out very much this year as far as where we're going to play volleyball, where we're going, because we're losing some of our space as a result of all the construction work. But she has invited us to use her gym for pretty much all of our sports, the ones that we need at least. And she has been a big help. So yes, I mean, those community partnerships are very important.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Do your middle school and or elementary school students participate in sports with other leagues or other schools in the area? How does that work?
Some do. I mean, most of our kids we compete against other schools in Okaloosa County.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we do have some, I believe not many though, who come out to Pensacola and participate in some of the Catholic League. So
okay,
yeah,
it's interesting. Coming from up north, I was born in the southeastern Pennsylvania area. There's a Catholic school on every corner, and then in the south, St. Mary's is like there's not one for 45 minutes in either direction, and so you have to establish these partnerships with public schools and the local community. That I think a lot of times up north, it's like, well, if our gym doesn't get used, there's another Catholic school gym 5 miles down the road or something like that. So a different ball game for sure. As we get close to the end here, Peter, we've had a series on youth ministry over the summer, reflecting on the impact that our ministries have at a young adult level, a high school level, in bringing teens, young people into a relationship with Christ. You already mentioned the Eucharistic revival, and I don't know if you can speak to sort of what's the mission, and especially in 2023, of a Catholic school to help a kid know Jesus and follow the Lord and become a disciple. I don't know if that's something you think about or wrestle with a lot of time. It seems like coming from your faith background, it's probably something that's come to mind.
Well, I think kind of along the lines that I was saying before, just about the Eucharistic revival and miracles in general, is just getting kids to understand that there is more to reality. There is more to truth. There's than we can perceive just with our senses. We live in a very materialistic world, a very materialistic society, and so contending with that, with those ideologies and those cultural influences are very difficult, and kind of imparting on the kids a sense that there is objective reality, there is objective truth, and that we can't necessarily sense it, but it still exists nonetheless. And so but that's a challenge, though. It's very challenging to really to teach that, to impart that, to pass that along. And so it really takes it takes a very strong partnership between the parents, the teachers, the administrators, everyone in the community for that matter, to constantly be reinforcing those ideas, those Catholic ideas that what exists, who we are.
Yeah, no, it's wholly endorse the partnership aspect. I think I've mentioned it before. A lot of people maybe grow up with the assumption, their parents might have said, "You go to Catholic school. We did our job. We imparted the faith to you by sending you to Catholic school." And it's like on the Catholic school, and it's like, well, we have reading standards to hit. We have to make sure our classrooms are orderly and disciplined. Like, we have religion class, but there's a lot of things that go on. We need your help too. This has to be a partnership between parish and school and parent. That it's a big mission to impart the faith. That just paying Catholic school tuition and sending them doesn't do the entire job, I guess you would say.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. Parental involvement, volunteering. I assume you have a big base at your school with all of that, and as well as parishioners from St. Mary and other local churches, because you're drawing from the greater Fort Walton Beach area as far as attendees at your school and stuff. So what sort of volunteer opportunities are available for people in the area?
Yeah, so we have a very strong and a very dynamic parent-teacher organization, and they are responsible pretty much for setting and establishing a lot of the different monthly events for the entire community, and they fundraise as well. And so, a lot of our parents, they volunteer for those various events and fundraisers. But we do have parishioners who reach out and they want to tutor, they want to be involved in some aspect of the operations. And so they usually reach out to me and kind of give their background, and they say whatever it is that they might be interested in, and whether it's tutoring or whether it's being involved in the PTO or the school advisory committee or the finance committee or whatever. And so we just kind of discern people's gifts and talents and what they're kind of bringing to the table and where they could best fit into the organization. And so that's kind of that's really how we kind of address that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Very cool.
Or channel that energy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you ever want to be involved in the Catholic school, there's always going to be.
There's always a place.
For sure.
Yeah. The wearing of many hats for sure. Peter, just as again that vision setter for the school, I know maybe you wanted to share if there's any St. Mary's folks listening or anything like that, but just in general, like what's the message that you have for your students, your people over there?
I think the main thing that I want to communicate to all of our children is the dignity that they possess. That the dignity, the worth, the value that they possess as being, by virtue of their Christian baptism, sons and daughters of God. They have a worth and a value that can neither be given or taken away by anybody or any organization. And so I want them to understand that, and I want them to know that.
Wow.
That's huge. It's something that you kind of take it for granted. It's like, yeah, I'm a child of God.
Yeah.
It's not something to be taken for granted anymore at this point in time.
No.
No. Well, Peter, your exemplary leadership, your attitude, your faithfulness, it just exudes sitting here next to you, and it's just such a pleasure knowing that our kids are in such good hands over there, and it really was a pleasure having you here
Likewise.
On the podcast.
Thanks so much, Peter.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you all are listening in the Fort Walton Beach area, I don't know how much room you have, but we have a new Florida. What is it called? The tax credit, basically.
The scholarship.
The scholarship.
The Step Up Scholarship. Yeah.
No income levels attached or anything like
right.
that.
They the Florida legislature just removed all income eligibility restrictions, so like everybody can apply for the scholarship now. Yeah.
So if you're with a reasonable driving distance to St. Mary's Catholic School, there is not much of a financial barrier if you're thinking of that, and I'm sure Peter would love to sit down and have a chat with you about being a part of the family. But yeah, we're so blessed to have you here in the diocese, and thank you for your leadership. And
thank you all.
For being here.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, next time, guys, we are going to pick it back up with Bishop, and it's going to be a fun episode, as all Bishop episodes are. But this one in particular, he's going to be sharing his favorite saints who've inspired him, who he holds dear to his heart, that color his life and his prayer space. So please tune in for that, and we'll see you then.
Thank you for tuning in today to the Gaudium et Spes podcast. If you would like to know more about our podcast, please visit our website, gaudiumetspes.net, or go to ptdiocese.org and click the button that says podcast. If you listen to the audio version from an app such as Apple Podcast, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, be sure to rate, review, and comment. If you watched us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe or leave us a comment there as well. Thank you for joining us.